Your real estate agent has asked you to get pre-qualified. What does that mean and how does it happen? Coming up right now on this episode of the Arizona Report. Welcome to the Arizona Report. My name is David Meek, licensed Arizona real estate broker. Today, episode 11. What is pre-qualification? What does that mean and how does that affect you? Your real estate agent who you're working with might have asked you recently to get pre-qualified. Well, there's a lot of information that you need to provide to the mortgage company. Today I have an expert in the studio to tell us what happens and to take us into a deeper dive into the topic. His name is Matt Sean. Matt's a loan officer with Suburban Mortgage in Phoenix. He also serves as the company's operations coordinator. Matt has worked in the industry since 1996, behind the scenes in the back office side, as well as the public side with customers. Matt, welcome to the Arizona Report.
Thanks for having me, David.
You got it. This is great. So, pre-qualification, start me from the very beginning. What is it and why do I need to do that?
Well, the primary reason to do a pre-qualification is to understand where your budget is at before you get out and start shopping for a home. You want to know what your comfort level for monthly payment is, and you want to know that you're going to qualify for that amount so that you can go through with the purchase completely.
So a pre-qualification basically is a look at my credit, my income, and I would give that information to a loan officer like you. You would take a look at it, run the numbers, and then essentially bless me for the home purchase. I would receive a letter where I could go out and shop confidently for a home and be able to prove to a home seller when I tender my offer that I'm as good as gold.
That is correct.
Okay. Excellent. Pre-qualification in Arizona, if a buyer is working with a Metro Phoenix realtor, that realtor is using a library of documents from the AAR, the Arizona Association of Realtors. Inside that library of documents is the purchase contract. The purchase contract says this buyer has or has not sought a pre-qualification for their mortgage with a loan officer. And I've got a document here. This is the pre-qualification form that a buyer would submit with an offer if they are getting financing, if they're getting a mortgage. So this says to the seller receives this with the offer. It says buyer has consulted with the lender or buyer has not consulted with the lender. And if they have they had their credit reviewed? Have they, what kind of loan are they seeking? What's their status? So you see this pretty much on a pretty regular basis.
Day in and day out.
Okay, great. So in order to fill out this form, walk me through what a conversation's like. So that potential buyer will come in to see you, or they'll call you on the phone, and what happens from there?
Well, from there, the first thing I do is I'll have a conversation with the buyer on a personal level to find out where their comfort level is. What are they paying in rent right now? Is that a payment that works for them? Do they have room in their budget? I want to get an idea where they personally are comfortable with, because a lot of the time, a buyer may be eligible for more than they're comfortable with, and I don't want to put somebody in a position to fail. So we go through that part of the process, and then I move into the interview style, getting their name, rank, and serial number effectively. Hopefully, they've either gathered already or can quickly gather pay stubs, W-2s. We'll cover that in a bit.
Yes.
Just so I know what their earnings level is, their assets are, what they're comfortable putting for a down payment.
And it feels, a lot of buyers look at this pre-qualification process and they're intimidated by it, and they shouldn't be. Yes, there are a lot of documents that they need to gather, but a good loan officer can shrink that timeline, put the buyer at ease about what needs to happen.
Absolutely.
And I was going to say, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
The world today is full of smartphone apps, and it drives me crazy because a lot of well-intentioned clients of mine will come to me and they'll say, David, I'm pre-qualified with app mortgage. And, there's somebody in a desk in Idaho who's never been to Arizona. They don't know the local climate or the local customs in real estate. And yes, there's a pre-qualification, but that person in a distant city on the other end of that app can't help me like a local loan officer.
Absolutely. Somebody who's going to take an interest not just in the numerics of it, but is looking out for your comfort level, understands enough about the market in the area to know what that pre-qual can do for them. Will it achieve their goals when they go out and go shopping?
Yes, I tell my clients, pick somebody local. Apps are great. If you're going to refinance, if you're going to purchase though, make sure you've got somebody who's local who you can sit down in front of, because there are sometimes some issues that crop up, and we'll get into those, that can delay a closing. Correct. Or especially if they're not disclosed. And if you have an experienced loan officer who is local, who you can see and who knows the local customs, you are much better off. That person's going to be invested in solving your problem, getting you to the closing table so you can get the keys very fast.
Correct, because they're going to be your neighbor in the end.
True.
And that to me matters immensely.
Yes. So if somebody doesn't get pre-qualified, what are the consequences of not getting pre-qualified right out of the gate, or you start looking and you're not pre-qualified?
One of the worst consequences that can possibly happen, you get out with a real estate agent, you look at a house, it's your dream house. You fall in love with that house, and you're ready to put an offer in, and they're asking for the pre-qualification letter that's required, and you don't qualify for that house.
I've seen that.
And to have your heart broken after you've already fallen in love with a house, that is a worst case scenario. The next scenario that could occur is same situation. You find your dream house and you don't have your pre-qualification letter. You get with a lender. It takes you time to gather the documents to get your pre-qualification, and by the time your pre-qualification letter is issued, somebody else has already snatched up that house.
I've seen that happen as well. You mentioned documents. What kind of documents does a buyer need to have access to and have ready to present to you to become pre-qualified?
Most people expect that they're going to have to come in with banker's box after banker's box.
Sure, those huge cardboard boxes. Yeah.
And the reality of it is 2 to 3 pay stubs per person who's on the loan.
A couple weeks or months of pay stubs.
About a month's worth usually is sufficient. The last 2 years W-2 forms if they're employed.
Okay.
A copy of their driver's license. Mm-hmm. Any bank statements that they would have, all the pages of those for about 2 months.
Okay.
But really only the accounts that you intend on pulling money from for down payment, or in the event that you're doing a loan type that requires a little bit of reserves. Your loan officer will guide you on what you need there.
Checking accounts, money market accounts, not necessarily retirement accounts. Yes, if you're planning on pulling a little bit out of those, but the big ones look like the pay stubs, the W-2s. You mentioned in the pre-interview an award letter. What is an award letter? An
award letter is if you're on Social Security, pension.
Okay.
You get an annual letter that'll describe how much you're earning for that year. If those are your income types, that would be in lieu of a pay stub, or in addition to if you're employed as well.
Okay, that makes sense. What are the scenarios that could trigger the need for more documentation? Like, everybody has unique scenarios.
Sure.
What are those scenarios, and what do I need? How much information do I need to give my loan officer as a home buyer about my unique situation? What are some of those situations?
Well, I'd start out having the conversation with the loan officer so they can tell you what documentation you need. But if you've been divorced in the recent past, and pay alimony, child support, if you have a child support order, giving or receiving, if you're planning on using that child support to qualify, which you don't have to disclose, but if you are using that for qualification, you'll have to document that. Any bumps that you've had in your credit, bankruptcy, great example. We'd need the bankruptcy discharge paperwork.
Gift funds. Sometimes buyers, especially FHA buyers, in my experience, receive money from a blood relative, a parent, to help them with the down payment, the 3.5% down FHA payment. I assume a gift letter is
we
one
have
of those?
a pre-built gift letter. We can just insert the amount in, provide that to you so you can take that to your relatives and get that signed.
Okay.
Just be prepared to tell your loan officer that that's where the money is coming from.
That's right, and maybe not wait to deposit those gift funds until you have specific directions from your loan officer in where to put that, how long it must sit or season. There's a lot. So basically, what I'd like to get across to the listeners is get pre-qualified early. Show your loan officer your situation, divorce, child support, personal corporate tax returns, bank statements, anything that could affect the loan, gift funds, and have that conversation up front, because a good loan officer will be able to tell you exactly where to go and what to do and how to prepare yourself to get pre-qualified.
Correct. You don't want to withhold anything that could be pertinent from your loan officer, because all that is doing effectively is you're kicking that can down the road. It is going to come up during the process. So the earlier it comes up, the smoother that process is going to go long term.
And you had an anecdote earlier about a buyer who was getting ready to go to closing and made a purchase that almost derailed the transaction. You saved the transaction, but that story, I think, is important to tell.
For sure.
If someone is in the process of getting pre-qualified in that 60 to 90 day window, you shouldn't do anything to add a new credit profile to your credit history. Don't go out and buy furniture. Don't go out and finance a Corvette. If you are spending, a good rule of thumb, maybe $500, $1,000, $1,500 more on a particular item than you would have otherwise, before you make that purchase, talk to your loan officer.
Absolutely. And the situation that we were talking about previously was I had a buyer who was right near the end of the process, well after pre-qualification. They were about to go to closing. We pull a credit report just prior to closing to make sure that nothing's changed. And we saw a credit inquiry, which indicates somebody's requested a copy of that credit report from a major jeweler.
So you not only pull credit at the very beginning at the pre-qualification, but the lender, a couple days before closing, within a week before closing, pulls a second credit report to make sure nothing has changed.
That's correct.
And that second credit pull is when this particular instance showed up.
Correct. And it was from a major jeweler. So I reached out to the buyer, and the buyer said that he had purchased an engagement ring for his fiance,
oh, my goodness,
who was also on the loan, and that purchase was enough to take him out of the range of qualification for the home.
So that purchase, even though it was well intended, almost derailed his home purchase. That was a diamond ring is $3,000, $4,000, $6,000.
Yeah, and in this case, I think it was about $4,000, and he hadn't proposed to her yet, so she did not know this.
Wow!
And we managed to finagle and make it work, but he had to return the ring, get store credit back,
close the credit
account before we could proceed in order to keep his secret.
Yeah.
So it's just really important to have that conversation with your loan officer. If you're planning to do anything, because they may talk you out of something or say, wait until after we've closed on the loan.
Right.
You can do this to your heart's content once you have the keys in your hands, but until then, you may want to.
I like how you said that. Until you have the keys in your hands, don't go out and finance anything after your pre-qualification. The furniture can wait. The diamond ring can wait. And there's a good ending to that story, too. You were able to guide him in advance of closing to close the account. You saved the day. He went back, got the ring, and
the
happily ever after.
The proposal was accepted.
Excellent.
So everything went very well, but it got a little hairy for a moment.
That's
For
Well,
sure.
you had the right guy. If something happens in that vein with that story, if something happens with my job or my credit, I get laid off after the pre-qualification and before closing. Obviously, that needs to be a conversation with the loan officer.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to call your loan officer and have that conversation. Even if it's a voluntary job change, because that perfect job comes along and the pay's higher and it's everything that you've been looking for, call your loan officer and just talk through it with them. If you have enough time in the process, it's possible that you might be able to proceed and do that. If not, they can guide you and say, we're only 10 days before closing. Can you delay this or put off this change? And the same comes with moving money, taking out store cards, buying that Ferrari that's going to look great in the garage of the house that you just purchased. Just hold off on that stuff.
Just wait.
And keep your loan officer in the loop. It serves you well in the long run.
I agree.
They're there to advocate for you, and they need the whole story to be able to do that properly.
And there are consequences. In the severe cases where something's not disclosed and closing gets bumped, it's possible for a buyer to lose a really good interest rate.
For sure.
If they're not closing on time. Everything moves toward the closing, and you need to stay on that track and button everything down.
And in a worst-case scenario, if you have a scheduled close of escrow date on your purchase contract, if you miss that date, there's other risks.
Yes.
Losing your deposit, possibly losing that house.
Earnest money, losing the house, the moving truck. It snowballs.
You don't want to go there.
Yeah. Get with a good loan officer. How long does it take to get pre-qualified, and what does it cost?
Generally, I can be with a buyer for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
If that buyer's reasonably prepared, I try to pre-prep them on what documents to have available.
Pay stubs, tax returns, bank statements.
Generally 30 minutes to an hour to do a good detailed analysis and pre-qualification. So it's not a ton of time for the value that you get out of it.
And you take that information, then you pull a credit report. You need to process some things on the back end, input them into your system, and that pre-qualification form, then you would submit that to the buyer maybe a day or two later?
To be quite honest, most of the time, by the time we're ending the conversation, I'm within minutes of giving that letter to him.
Perfect.
Did one this morning, in fact, where while I was sitting there with him, pulled his credit face-to-face with him, walked through the options, talked about his comfort level, where he wanted to be, and was able to hand him the pre-qualification letter as he's walking out the door.
On the spot.
And email it to him as soon as I got back to my regular desk.
Perfect.
So
he's out shopping. That was this morning. He's out shopping this afternoon.
As we speak right now.
With that letter in hand, and he's ready today to make an offer.
That's correct.
I love it. Are there any other benefits to getting a pre-qualification?
The biggest benefit that I can throw out there is, besides the comfort that you get in knowing what you qualify for, once you're under contract on that house, if you've worked with a good loan officer who's done their due diligence up front, that's less due diligence that has to be done when you're under contract.
Right.
It's less paperwork. The process goes so much smoother. You can close faster a lot of the time than you otherwise would be able to. And you'll be able to focus more of your energy once you're under contract on getting that home inspection and preparing movers and doing the stuff that you need to do to make the move go smoothly.
And one of the other points, too, is if you are pre-qualified and you have chosen a loan program and you've locked your interest rate and you know what the property taxes are, you know your monthly payment.
That is correct. You've taken the variables out,
right,
and you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Right off.
You can sleep at night.
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, Matt, thank you very much for joining us on the Arizona Report and shedding a lot of light on what is pre-qualification and why buyers need to do that up front. Please come back in the future and talk with us some more about the process and some different loan programs.
I'd be more than glad to. Have enjoyed being here.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
I'm David Meek, licensed Arizona real estate broker. My website, arizonareport.com. Please take a look at my website if you're interested in finding out more about the Phoenix real estate market. I want to give Matt one more opportunity. I forgot to give Matt an opportunity to give his contact information. What is a good website, email, and telephone number?
All right. Phone number I can be reached at is 602-606-6711. That's my direct desk phone number.
Okay.
Email is mshawn, S-H-O-N, at submort.com, S-U-B-M-O-R-T.
Thank you for spelling that.
Correct.
Submort.com, as in suburban mortgage.
And best website to get me at is www.submort.com/Matt.
M-A-T-T.
That is correct.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, join us next time. I'll be putting out more videos on the Phoenix real estate market and bringing you more specialists in the mortgage, appraisal, and finance end of the business. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode.